Welcome to the kitchen. Today we're going to make scones. They're a very traditional British afternoon tea treat. They're very simple to make. The ingredients are quite easy to gather. We have flour, butter, eggs and buttermilk. That's pretty much all you need, although you can take it off in different directions after that. There's a lot of debate around whether you put the jam on top or the cream on top, and I don't think it matters. I think they're delicious either way. I don't add sugar to my scones, but it's possible if you do like a hint of sweetness to add some sugar. You could also, as I say, take it in a savoury direction. You could add some lovely cheese, some herbs. I've got chives here and I've got some fresh oregano. I've also got some chopped spring onions and chopped chives, which would make them a savoury cheese scone. But this afternoon, we're actually going to Buckingham Palace for tea with the Queen. So this is the recipe that the royal chefs use at Buckingham Palace to make thousands of fruit scones every summer for the garden parties that the Queen hosts in the grounds of Buckingham Palace. This is going to be our centerpiece for our afternoon tea. So we start with the flour, and into that I've added 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That's about 14 grams. So you can use self-raising flour for this. I would then still add half the amount of baking powder. I've got butter, 55 grams of unsalted butter, which I've cut into tiny little cubes. And what I'm going to do is tip the butter into the flour, and I'm going to use my flour whisk. We always had one of these at home when I was growing up. You can still find them in kitchen department stores. And this is to prevent the heat from my fingers melting the butter. And what I'm doing is I'm rubbing it in to the flour. And you can use a knife to do this, or you could use your fingers, or even quicker, you can do it in a blender, a Magimix with a big blade. That takes seconds. What we're going to end up with, as the butter gets broken down and mixes with the flour, is a sort of coarse breadcrumb type texture. So I've got a lovely breadcrumb texture here. The butter's been broken down and it's all well coated with the flour. And now what I need to do is take my egg, 1 medium egg, into my buttermilk. I'm going to use my whisk. Now, it is important that you mix these together really, really well. The acidity in the buttermilk is going to help also with the rise of the scones. And these go into a very hot oven. We bake them at 220 degrees centigrade. It's about 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And the idea behind that is they will rise very fast. I'm going to pour most of this in, and I'm going to use my spatula, and I'm going to work quite quickly to combine these two. So I want the wet ingredients to mix with the dry. And before I add the rest of the wet mix, or with the rest of the wet mix, I'm also going to add the sultanas, or raisins, or you could use cranberries, which I've just soaked in some hot water for 10 minutes because the Queen likes fruit scones. So this is coming together nicely in the bowl. I can use my fingers to pull it together. I don't want to overwork this mixture because the scones will become tough. So quickly rolling it around in the bowl to bring it together. And as you can see, it's all come together in the bowl, and there's nothing wet or dry left on the side of the bowl. The bowl is clean. I've got it all right here in this little pile. And that is our scone dough. I'm going to lightly dust this surface with a little bit more flour so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to press this out lightly and gently. And I want a depth roughly from the tip of my thumbnail to the first joint of my thumb, which is about an inch. It's about 2.5 centimeters. There we are. Perfect. And I'm going to cut them out using my little round cutter. If you want to make them smaller, use a smaller cutter. Pretty easy done. When I worked in Scotland at the Calder Castle, just outside Inverness, we used to make 300 scones a day for visitors who came to see the castle. So I think I earned my scone badge when I was there. So I do have a little bit of dough left, so I have reformed it and patted it down, and I'm going to I'll get one more out, so we've gone for 7. I don't want to keep working this dough, so I'm going to just form into a little patty of its own, and it will be one for the chef. So there we are. We've got our scones. What I've got here is my baking sheet, and I'm now going to let them rest for 15 minutes. So the dough can relax and the raising agent can start to work, and then we'll bake them. So now I'm going to turn my oven on. It'll go on now. It'll be heated up and ready to bake by the time the scones have had their little rest. So the oven is warmed up and my scones have had a chance to rest. I've got some milk here and I've got a pastry brush, and I'm going to just brush the tops with milk. This will give them a nice glaze and make them look pretty. And then they're going to go into the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. Should be plenty, and they should rise up beautifully, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. The scones went into the oven, actually took 9 minutes, so 8 to 10 minutes. They were on a really hot temperature in a fan oven, and as you can see, they've risen really nicely. And they have a trademark sort of split at the waist, halfway up, which is traditionally where you would slice them to fill. I've got some icing sugar here, and I'm going to dust these with icing sugar, and they look really pretty. So on my cake stand I've got my scones, and over here I've got homemade strawberry jam, which is strawberries, sugar and lemon juice pretty much. And here I've got my clotted cream, and as you can see with these two, I've split one in half. I've done jam on the bottom and cream on top, and on this one I've done cream on the bottom and jam on top. That keeps everyone happy. And we're about to sit down and have our afternoon tea.